Okay, we're back. It's COMP2007. It's Enterprise Computing, and it's week 6, lesson 6, part 1. And I want to talk about data today, a little bit. So we're going to kind of revisit, database in general, and we're also going to do some stuff like creating a database in Azure, which is something that you guys probably have never done, right? So it's something that we're going to carry forward in other courses as well, so it's good that you know how to do this stuff. Okay, so let's do that piece first. So we're going to go into let's fire up Azure for those people who have that open. I'm just going to, again, I'm here on the Windows side. And I'm going to bring up Azure. And again, the way to go, where you go to it is you go to manage.windowsazure.com to bring up your Azure portal. And I've got a couple of databases that I've created. Now, with your Azure Pass, you may only be able to do 1 or 2 databases. So I've kind of created a couple of them. I'm going to delete them, and we're going to make some for ourselves. So I'm going to actually kill the first one, which is the COMP2007 one. And we'll talk about strategies and what to do there for us to make it all work. So I'm going to kill this one. Okay, so who's with me? Who's up on Azure with me? Let's get there first, right? I'll wait till you guys are up. Now there's some tricks that we have to do for Azure to access the database. By the way, you guys have all done a database course. I'm guessing by now. Maybe it's been a while since you've done database. I'm asking that question. I don't know how long it's been. Last semester maybe? Yeah, you're saying yeah? So you should know about SQL databases, right? It's not like this is a new thing for any of you. Right? Just putting it out there because I know some people are. If you're rusty, we're going to kind of go over the basics again, and we'll talk about how we're going to access the database, which is with something called the Entity Framework. Let's bring this up a little bit. All right. So that's the first. The first thing we need to do is click this new button. All right. So we're going to go here, and I'm using the old portal. By the way, there is a newer portal look. For now, let's just go here and use the new button. It's going to take us to this dashboard here, which you should also see. And there's a couple of options. Quick Create. There's also Custom Create. So if I click on, let's just click on each one to show you what they both do. So if I click Quick Create, it gives me database name, the subscription type, and the server. If I go Custom Create, it gives me it all. It gives me the name, the subscription type, what kind of service tier do you want, basic, standard, or premium. What's your performance level, all this other stuff that it kind of asks you to do. Also choose a server. You can create one of your own as an example, but there's many options here in custom. I think for us, for our purposes, let me go back, it's fine to go with Quick Create, right? This is good enough. Now here you create your custom database name. Remember, this database is going to live on a SQL server on the cloud, right? That's why it's going to work. So you still have your SQL server. Welcome back, guys. We're just going onto the cloud. So if you guys can go into Azure, please. We're going to create a SQL database. So we're on the cloud. So the SQL server itself, the latest version, SQL Server 2014, if I'm not wrong, or something like that, lives on the cloud, right? We don't have to actually have a physical server, in our local box. You could certainly go to DreamSpark and download a local server if you wish, right? With all the tools that it comes with and so on. We're not going to do that in this course because we're trying to work as much as possible in the cloud, so it makes sense that we build our database in the cloud. So on Azure. So again, database name, it's going to whatever the database is going to be called that's living on the SQL server, right? Okay, so I'm going to make one. We're going to just call this one COMP in caps 2007. You can certainly call it whatever you like, right? And if you notice, my subscription style is Azure Pass, so should yours. I also have pay-as-you-go if I wanted to go there. From a server perspective, if you may not have any, I've created a bunch of servers just to check it out. Let's go and do a new one. So I'll go new SQL database server, right, as an example. Now, I'm not going to choose Japan West, right? Why would I not choose Japan West, right? It's far away. Right? So from a latency perspective, it's going to increase latency. We don't have to go there. What we probably want to do is click East US, and I know that Rich has been working with the with our IT guys from a ports perspective to make it so that we can use Central US. So let's click Central US. East US probably work as well. Let's just use Central. And what we want to do here is create a login name for the database. Now it's not going to use your Windows credentials. Typically you have your Windows credentials that you'd log into a database that's local. But for now we're going to make our own credentials. So make a name and make sure you pick a password that meets the criteria. For me, and I'll share the password with you guys so you can check it out if you'd like. For now, I'm just going to be my name, and my password style is going to be like, my initials. So let's say capital T, lowercase t, and then a series of numbers followed by an exclamation mark. Right? Now, just so that way you guys can, do your own. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, cool. I'm ready to go. It's not complaining right now, and I'm going to click Create SQL Database to create my database on the cloud. All right, so it's going to take its time. I'm just going to go dismiss completed for a second. Okay, cool. So I've got two, right? I've got this one here as an example, which is our standard. This is the one I made before, and this is a new one that I just made now. And it says Central US with an Azure Pass. We need to make some changes to this one. Are you guys with me? Who's done their database already, ready to go to the next step? So we need to do this piece. Okay. So there's a little button here, this little arrow, which is going to take us into the dashboard. So here's our dashboard for my new database server, COMP2007, right? Our database on the server. And if you notice right here, this is my connection string, right? This right here, this CI 70 blah, blah, blah. This is my connection string. I may need that later on, but for now, it says, hey, let's set up Windows Azure firewall rules for this IP address. I could do that. I can definitely do that. One thing you may want to do, if you haven't done this already, is click this first link, which is install Microsoft SQL Server Data Tools. If I go there, it's going to take me to another page. And for your version of SQL Server, if you're running it on your laptop, for Visual Studio, there are some instructions on how to download SQL Server Data Tools. So let's click this, get it, and then from there, it's going to give you some instructions on how to download your data tools for Visual Studio. And the reason why I'm suggesting this, and again, if you notice, it's Visual Studio 2013 that you want, this one right here, right? So you're going to go download SQL Server database tooling in Visual Studio 2013. Click on that one, right? And then it's going to give you your software requirements, minimum specs, and so on, and then and how to set all that up. The first one, if you notice this step 3, it's going to give you the different links depending on the language you want of choice. Obviously, for us, we're going to choose English. And if you click on this, it'll start downloading your tools for SQL Server. So please do that if you haven't done it already, right? Now what this does, of course, it gives us additional tool sets for us to do things with both command line and through Visual Studio, right? To use these tools to connect with SQL Server. So please do that. It'll take a few minutes to get that done. And let me know when you guys are all done doing that. In the meantime, when this is happening, if your install is already going on, and right now, by the way, if you notice, my Visual Studio is shut down. So please make sure your Visual Studio 2013 is not functioning, because we haven't gone in there. Otherwise, you may have some kind of requirement to shut it down. All right, look what it says here. The next one is set up Windows Azure firewall rules for this IP address, right? Why do we need firewall rules at all? Why do I need to? Yeah. To block people accessing. You want to reduce as much direct access from a security standpoint to your database as possible. Now we're at the school level, and they're blocking everything here, right? So in order for us to have access, we're going to really do something that's less secure in general that I would not recommend in a development environment. But we need to do this because that way it's going to open up the ports for us and make it nice. Okay, so how do we do this? We go to Set up Windows Azure Firewall Rules for this IP. If I click this, it's going to say, okay, it's done, right? It says the current IP address, which is this, right? 192.139.153, whatever it is done. If I click, do you want to update the firewall rules? If I click yes, it's going to take me, it's actually all the firewall rules are done. Okay, this is okay, but it's not what we need. I'm going to scroll up here. If you scroll up to the top, and if you notice there's a bunch of different buttons up here. One of them are links. One of them is dashboard. Let's go there. And on the right, if you look at the dashboard on the right-hand side here, there's something called Manage Allowed IP Addresses. Managed Allowed IP Address. If you click there, right now it looks like this is the only one, right? Yeah, that would be great if we were sitting at home somewhere, right? Or in an area where you had a dedicated IP and your ports weren't blocked, right? But for this may not do for us for accessing the server from where we are at school. So what I recommend, again, I'm going to say this with a disclaimer that this is not secure, right? It defeats the security of having an IP address. Kind of firewall is just put in 0.0.0.0, and then something like 255.255.255.0, let's say, right? And then I would actually allow services. I would turn this Windows Azure Services on, right? So say yes to this one. When you're done, you click Save. And then it'll take a moment to update your rules for your firewall rules for the server. Now, if you notice, I have several servers that I've configured because I've tried this demo a bunch of times, right? But for this server, the one we just created, that's the one we want. Okay, if I should look at this server and I click Databases, like on the top here, we should see our new database, this COMP2007, or whatever you ended up calling it before, right? And if you notice now, it gives us more information. It gives us that it's 250 gigabyte space total. I think that's pretty big for what we need, way too big. It's giving us our standard service, right, which is pretty good. It's going to melt your pay pass pretty good, your Azure pass, right, if you use it a lot. But for now, it's good. It's not going to kill us too much for what we're going to be doing. All right, so that's what it gives you. Let's go back. Have you guys finished your installation of the other thing? Those tools? You should be done by now. If all goes well and you've done all this piece, it's now time to set up our Visual Studio, right? So we're going to kind of go into Visual Studio. And you know what? I don't even have to have a database, or sorry, anything open right now. I'm just going to minimize this for a second. I've got a bunch of different windows here, and what I really need right now, if I pull them up, let me just go to the one that I want Server Explorer. If you don't have Server Explorer, I'm going to pin this one, right? What you need to do is you have to go into View, right, as an example, and you got to find Server Explorer in here, which is the third one down for me, Server Explorer. It'll launch that window, so you'll have Server Explorer on there for you, right? Now again, we haven't opened up a project or anything right now. All we're doing is we're setting up our connection links to our database. And once we've done this here, right, we don't have to do this later on when we do this whole database stuff, right? Because this is the biggest problem. The biggest problem for students and for other people who are learning this stuff is, man, I can't make the connection to the database. It sucks. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. We're going to avoid that. Okay, if you notice, on mine, I have a little Azure server thing. Do you guys have this as well? You may have it if you're logged in. You need to be logged in for this. So I'm logged in as me, right? As an example, you need to log into your Visual Studio environment, and then you should have this link to Azure. If I actually kind of drill down in here, right, and kind of expose everything, if you notice down here, I have this thing called SQL databases, right here. If I open this again, right, if I expand this thing, it'll refresh my SQL databases, so I see these two. I have Georgian DB1, which is the other one I made, and there's another one that I call COMP2007, which was what I made just now, right? I need to click on this thing, all right? When I clicked on this thing, I can right-click, and when I right-click, it gives me a couple options. I can open SQL Server Object Explorer, or I can open in Management Portal. I don't want to open up in Management Portal. I want to do this one, the first one, open in SQL Server Object Explorer. When I do that, it'll give me a connection string like this. Are you with me? Right? Mine shows me Microsoft SQL Server 2014. I've updated my Visual Studio 2013 with the latest updates for SQL Server. If you haven't, you may not get this window. Or you may not look like this, right? If you have, and if you've just done these little patches that we just did, you should get this window. And then it says the server name, right, which is whatever the server was, .database.windows.net, right? My authentication type, which is SQL Server authentication. I don't want to use Windows authentication, yeah?
I installed the first one. We don't need the second one, right?
Which second one?
Because there was a step 4 on it.
No, just the first one. Second one is not necessary. All right, and then if you notice, I've got a login that shows me my kind of the login ID that I have, a standard, and then I'm going to put in my password. So I'm going to go with my password, which is my initials, and then a series of numbers, and then an exclamation mark. And I'm going to say, remember my password. If you look at options, if I click options just to see, right, you can adjust, you can make additional adjustments if you wish, right? Like for example, you can change the network protocol type if you want to, right? Right now it's the default. You can change the packet size and so on. You can encrypt the connection. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can also add additional connection parameters in here and so on. But for now, for our little example, all we need to do is click connect. Let's click connect. If all goes well, on the left-hand side here, you're going to see that our server, which is this new one, mine is CI blah, 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 is there, right? Okay, let's take a look at that. So I've got a bunch of different ones. I've got a couple local DBs for me. Yours might look different. I have this one, which is a connection that I made earlier, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this one. And I have this new one, right? So you guys should have almost something similar to this. Okay, well, I've got my database right here. And if I actually drill down into it, I can notice that there's nothing. I have no tables. I just have system tables that are in here. So my database is blank. And if I'm here in SQL Server Object Explorer to do this. Are you guys all with me? You're shaking your head. Yes?
My SQL databases are just not opening up. I'm logged in. It's there. Just not working.
Okay, well, I'm going to come around and check you guys out in a second. You may have to do that extra update. Yes?
I'm pretty finished, but I missed the step with the add connection.
Add the connection?
Yeah.
Sure. So how did I do that? I went to Server Explorer, and I have Azure here, right? And then what I want to do is when I refresh this SQL databases, I have to click refresh, right-click on the SQL database, click refresh. And what this will do, it'll update the databases that are physically connected to your Azure account, right? Now that you're logged in, you have to be logged in for this. And then I have two. You may only have one, right? If I look at COMP2007, the one I made just now, look, Louis, I right-click on it, and I say Open in SQL Server Object Explorer. And when I do that, right, it's going to bring me to that connection string, right? So it's going to bring me to the connect, right? So here's where it brings me. I'm already kind of connected, and I've already logged in. So I'm here. This is where it brings me. Are you guys all with me now? All right. So I'm going to pause it there. I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to go around and make sure you guys can all connect, because this is really a crucial step. If you can't do this, we're in trouble, right? So let's do that.
Yeah, my tools are still downloading. It's taking forever.
Yeah, I figured that it would, right? So let me just pause the movie right now, and we'll come back after I've checked everybody out.